Hello there, good people. How's it going? My name is Marco. Welcome to my channel. Today I will try and write a script for Python that will download videos from YouTube, specifically from YouTube. If you want to see how it's done, well then stick around. For your information, all these projects are taken from an article online. You'll find the link in the description below. But if you're interested in sharing your own project, if you feel stuck in a project and you wanted to just get help, well then feel free to comment down below and I might make a video. I'd be more than happy to help you, sharing is caring. Okay, so the setup for this project is quite simple and the key element is an external library called PyTube. Now, I think that this is one of the greatest aspects of Python because you can import external libraries and they enable you to just basically do everything. With a few lines of code, you can create amazing projects. And this is why, in my opinion, Python is probably one of the greatest programming languages and definitely the most beginner friendly. Alright, so now that the project is set up, let's look at the code. As I said, the project is really simple. First thing first, installing PyTube and importing it at the top, along with the OS module, which is built in. I'll create a function that takes a URL and a file name as arguments. For the file name, I'll put a none as default, and you'll see why in a bit. First, I want to check the folder where my downloads are going to be stored, and I use the OS module to create the directory if it doesn't exist, or set the path if it does exist. In the same way, I want to have two identical file names, so I check that there is no other file named whatever the second argument is. Now I have to create a YouTube object, which takes in three arguments, a URL and two callback functions. I'll show what they are later on. On this object, I chain different methods. The stream method, then filter, order by, I think it's quite clear, this is descending, first, self-explanatory, and finally, download, which takes the path to save the file and a file name. If the file name is none, it keeps the original name of the video. This is why in the function I put none as default. Despite being long, it is understandable what everything is doing here, because the part before download is basically to tidy up and organize things, filter, order by, etc. The way you can manipulate this is so extensive, and you can take a look at the documentation, which is something you should always do before working on or working with external libraries. Now, let's go back for a moment to the two callback functions that I mentioned earlier. Now, by their name is quite clear what they do. I mean, on progress, callback, and on complete. When downloading a file, it is quite obvious to just keep track of the status of the download. I want to see where I'm at and if it's done. These two methods are meant for that. Now, the important aspect here is to understand when they get called and which arguments are actually passed in. The progress function takes three arguments: the stream, which is the video itself as object, a chunk, which is just a piece of the total bytes of the file, of the video, and the bytes remaining, which indicates obviously how much of the file is yet to be downloaded. On the other hand, onComplete takes two arguments, chunk as before and file path. Now, I kept things simple here, but you could use this function to do some kind of post-processing, etc. As I mentioned, the important question here is basically when do this function get called in the process, in the operation? This is extremely important to understand. The answer is to be looked for in the documentation, which I strongly recommend to always read when dealing with external libraries. It's always not always, but sometimes it's a good read. On a side note, I strongly suggest you to refrain from checking Stack Overflow or similar, because all the replies that I've seen were either, didn't work or were just wrong, completely wrong. So don't do it. In this case, the progress function gets called every time a chunk is finished downloading. Now, you might not be familiar with this, but when you're dealing with large files, the best practice for downloading is not actually to download the entire package, the entire file all at once, but actually divide and download chunks of it, which are just chunks of bytes. These tend to optimize the process. So this function gets triggered every time a chunk is downloaded. This means that you don't want any kind of code blocking function in there, because you're gonna stop the download, okay? Okay, so this is the moment of truth. It should work, and if it does, it should create a folder on my desktop named YT Downloads. And in that folder, there should be the file, the MP4 file. In this case, I've named it test download. And this is one of my videos, so there shouldn't be any copyright infringements. Let's see if it works. Fingers crossed. Alright, so it says that it has done it. Let's see on my desktop. Okay, there's the folder, and this is the file, and it works. Yoo-hoo! We've downloaded something from YouTube. We're outlaws. Alright, so I think it's done. Mission accomplished for this one as well. Again, I remind you, if you want to share a project, just leave a comment down below. I'd be glad to help you if you're stuck in a project, if you want some tips. And if you enjoy the content and you like this video, please leave a like so that more people can see it. And don't forget to subscribe, because, you know, as the good old saying, why not? Really, thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate this. I'll see you to the next video. Stay tuned for more. Bye bye.